Hi there, guys. Octavian here. Nice to be back. This is going to be cast number 45, if I recall my numbers correctly. That's a lot of casts. We've been getting pretty far into this. Still not quite halfway, though, and then after that we've got another 50 to go after we get the first 50, so still, good amount left to go. Looks like blue team might be heading for an invade here. This ward dropped over the wall. It doesn't spot them out. They are sitting in the bush, but they saw the ward get dropped, so they know that it would spot them out if they were to leave the bush going up. Sona's taking W first, her healing area. That's a little bit odd. Usually Sona will go with the Q, the area of power or whatever. There's so many different areas that she has, it's difficult to remember all the names sometimes, but the blue one, because it deals the most damage at level 1, with the enhanced auto attack, the power chord that deals the most out of any of the power chords, as well as the fact that it just kind of deals damage itself. But she does have the green Pear Cake now invading into the enemy team jungle with a bunch of her friends at her side, and they're just going to be forcing purple team away from this. Llanowar will be sitting over the wall, though. Looks like he might want to try and take his blue buff back, but no. He's going to wander away. There's pings going on to the blue team's blue buff right now. Lulu likely going to go and try and even up the score by stealing back what is theirs, since his was taken, and so... that has got to suck for Kha'Zix. Sona's auto attack snuck in there just as he smited it. And Sona actually ended up with a blue buff, and the Mumu is overdoing his, so he's not going to be able to get a blue buff this game unless he can rush over there really quick. But his smite is down, so even if he got over there, the Mumu would be able to smite it away from him. Up in top lane, though, we see Riven and Yasuo trading out. Very nice. Sweeping blade from the Yasuo flash. A little bit unnecessary, but he gets the first blood anyways. A little bit of a panic flash. 2-inch flash. Ooh, stun lands onto Fizz. Some good harass from the Xerath. He's running a bit low on mana, though, and I'm worried for him in this middle lane. Fizz has a very powerful level 3 and 4 compared to Xerath's, at least. Especially considering that Xerath is one of the more immobile mid lane mages you can play, so he could be easy pickings for this Fizz if he's sitting up pretty far in the lane because he has pushed up. Doesn't have very much mana, and Amumu's just cleaning up his jungle, so he might be able to come in and gank then. But so long as he's a little bit more careful, stays a bit farther away from the minion wave, he should be fine. And actually, Kha'Zix is roaming into the Amumu's jungle here, looking to make something happen. Looking over at the side, though, in those champion portraits, Kha'Zix is still only level 1, and Amumu is level 2. And probably going to hit 3 off of this red buff camp. He hits 3 off of the little minions, and Kha'Zix, level 1, is still trying to go for this invade. And Amumu's not turning and fighting. That is incredibly strange. Invisible Killer in the mid lane manages to do some good damage back onto the Xerath, and there we see the advantage that Fizz does get at the level 3 and 4. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Yasuo and Riven are added. Again, Steel Tempest has the knockup charged up, but there's so many minions there. I don't know if Yasuo really wants to fight through that. Nicely shot. He does hit Riven with it, but he's tanking up a ton of minions. A few cannon shots, a bunch of casters. He's brought down to less than a third of his hit points. Probably about less than a quarter, actually. But something interesting that we haven't really touched on is the bottom lane matchup here. It's a Varus and Sona versus a Corki and Nami. Now, Varus and Sona, very powerful in terms of teamfighting. They both have AoE CC teamfight ultimates. Try saying that 3 times fast. But what they both lack is mobility. They're not very quick or deft champions. And the same is true of Xerath. Speaking of Xerath, he's getting leapt upon by this Fizz. He's taking a bunch of damage. The burn is ticking down. He does, thankfully, have just enough mana to toss back a stun, though. But still, we see that Fizz is starting to get the upper hand in that lane. Even though he's still behind a little bit in CS, it's not enough to be a huge deal. And he's starting to be able to push this Xerath away from the lane. And actually, Xerath has stuck around. I'm a little bit surprised at that call. He's got basically no mana and less than half of his hit points remaining. This is a very dangerous situation for the Xerath to be in. But one of the reasons why I bring up the immobility of Blue Team's team comp here is that the other team is probably just the opposite, especially in their solo laners. They have a Riven and a Fizz, and that's going to be really, really hard to deal with. Fizz now going aggressive here onto the Xerath. Very nicely done. However, he does not land the second half of Playful Trickster. Xerath flashes away from that, but that is a flash burn for an Ignite traded back. That's perfectly fine for the Fizz. And Xerath forced back to lane. Forced back to base from lane. This time actually heading back to base rather than sitting around in lane at a very low amount of hit points and kind of pushing the envelope against that Fizz. Something that we should probably go into, actually, which we've talked about a few times just because of the action, but is this top lane. That is a Yasuo versus a Riven. Yasuo currently has the lead. He's been pushing the Riven under the tower this whole time, and of course, he got that first blood as well, the only kill to show up on the board so far. Oh, but speaking of that matchup, we have a Mumu coming in for the gank. Yasuo does have his knockup available. He dashes through the Mumu and lands a very nice Steel Tempest onto both, and then dodges out the bandage toss. Well played by the Yasuo, completely nullifying that gank attempt by the Mumu. Speaking of ganks, we haven't yet seen Kha'Zix pull any off. Amumu has just tried for one there, and Kha'Zix has had some pressure on the map. He invaded in onto the Mumu, and one of the strangest invades I think I've ever seen. The Kha'Zix was still level 1, and the Amumu hit level 3, and the Amumu decided to run away. I'm not really entirely sure why. I mean, the matchup does go in favor of Kha'Zix, but that's assuming that there's not a 2-level difference early on in the game. In that case, matchups aren't really that big of a deal anymore, because that's such a huge advantage. Invisible Killer going in for the kill here onto Cola Freak. Gets stunned up, though, forced back to his own minions, but Cola Freak is down at half health. Does have some biscuits to munch on, or one biscuit, rather, but that's not going to provide enough hit points for him to get back to full, and he's going to be pressured away from the minion wave here by this Fizz, who's starting to get a CS lead, and that's not a good thing. Fizz should not have a lead this early on against a Xerath. Xerath just kind of misplayed his backs in that lane. Kha'Zix now going in for an invade in basically the same exact spot as we see Invisible Killer going in for the kill here on the Cola Freak. He uses Playful Trickster, and there's Chum the Waters. Easy kill underneath the tower for Invisible Killer on that Fizz in the mid lane. Evening up the kill score, purple team 1, blue team 1, and nearly evening up the gold. Blue team still has about 100 gold lead, but that's kind of negligible. Not really that big of a deal, probably just coming from that top lane matchup where the Yasuo is beating the Riven in terms of CS, and the bottom lane matchup as well, where Varus is doing his part to beat the Corki in CS. Bottom lane, something we haven't really talked about much aside from to mention the immobility of blue team's matchup. We didn't really talk about the Corki Nami. Honestly, I expected Corki Nami to have a bit of a better showing here in the early game. Corki's got a very powerful early game, and combine that with Tidecaller's Blessing, and it just becomes really, really hard for enemy teams to avoid fighting them. But I suppose Sona and Varus also have a decent early game. I don't really know how to call that one. Sona and Varus is not a combo we see very often. We don't really see either of those champions played very much anymore. Mainly because they're both fairly immobile, and Sona is rather squishy, so she can get behind very easily in a lane early if she just isn't careful. But the Sona did play it quite well, and they have been pushing up the lane pretty much constantly. Highfish getting jumped onto by Llanowar here. These the Curse of the Sad Mummy and Amumu. Actually, no, Fizz is going to get the kill onto Kha'Zix. A little bit caught out there by the Kha'Zix. There's now Fizz with a blue buff and a mana and a flask charge running. He's going to have all of his mana back very easily after that. And going to be pushing the Xerath up into the lane. He's extending his CS lead even farther. This is starting to look a little bit grim here, as now Spiteful might be caught out of position on the Nami. Nah, just wanders way back up the river a little bit, going the long way around. Actually, no, toying with the idea of walking down the river. Meanwhile, up in top lane, Riven is being pushed under tower, which is not really a new story. Yasuo's been doing that basically this whole game, keeping a good, solid CS lead for himself, and as well as having that first blood. This top lane, I'm calling it in favor of Yasuo right now, but the matchup in general I don't think favors either one of them, and there is a very nice Playful Trickster to completely dodge out the stun from Xerath, and Invisible Killer is on a killing spree. Every single kill on purple team so far has gone over to this Fizz, but he's been making use of them. He certainly has been making use of that gold that he's got. He is 3-0-0, and he's got nearly a 10 CS lead. Actually, no, he does have more than a 10 CS lead over the Xerath, so a solidly won lane by the Fizz. What I'd like to see him do now with that power that he has, with all that gold that he's got, and the lead that he's accrued over Xerath, is use it to roam and affect the rest of the map if he possibly can. It would assure victory even more for purple team, because while they are ahead in the mid lane, they're only 800 gold ahead overall, so they have a lot of their gold accrued and focused on this Fizz, so they really need him to start making some moves across the map. And I'm sorry about that. I came down with a little bit of a cold recently. I'm just getting off the end of it, but apparently it wants to linger. I don't really like it, but that's how it is. I'm sorry. I'll try my best to keep the coughing and such to a minimum. But the show must go on. I must continue my practice. I won't get better if I don't keep on practicing. The stun does not quite land on the Land of War, and here's Invisible Killer going in, and this is going to be a simple kill on Azerath in the mid lane. Another kill going over to Fizz. That is a 4-0 Fizz. Though up in top lane, the first turret of the game does fall, heading over to blue team. Ooh, knock-up not quite landing on the Riven. He's going in anyways, though. Yasuo is... Zephyr, though, does have a stun key strike stopping Yasuo in his tracks, and Fizz is now just starting to roam. He's going up towards top lane. There is a pink ward in the brush, though. It's going to spot him out as he wanders into the lane. Yasuo, though, is not responding to this. He's not stopping his back. He might get canceled here by the Riven. No, he makes it back just in time. Meanwhile, down in bottom lane, though, a bubble lands onto Pearcake as here's Land of War with the Curse of the Sad Mummy onto both members of the enemy team's bot lane. Pearcake lands the crescendo onto only the Corki, but he manages to get away under the tower anyways, and Spiteful now maybe going to be going down here. Ghost popped by the Kazakhs, and there's the Void Spikes. Well done by Highfish, showing up at the very end there. Janitor Kazakhs cleaning up the fight. And a really well-placed Varus ulti, holding Nami underneath the turret and bringing her down really quickly. Pink ward gonna get cleared out here by Zephyr. Yasuo is nowhere nearby, doesn't have any say in this. And something we should take a look at now that we have the time is some of the builds. It looked like he was looking to rush a Lichbane, but perhaps because of all the gold that he's gotten, he's decided to simply go for a bunch of AP rather than finishing the Lichbane. He's gotten a needlessly large rod, as you can see in his inventory there, and it is certainly a little bit needlessly high on the AP. Probably going to be building that into a Deathfire Grasp. That's a fairly popular Fizz item. Perhaps a Zhonya's Hourglass, as we see the dragon getting smite secured there by Kazakhs. Mumu was nowhere nearby, wasn't able to steal that away. But Invisible Killer looking to go after Highfish, goes in with the playful Trickster, but Highfish has his ulti, and Invisible Killer incorrectly guesses which direction he goes. Now Zephyr going in onto the Yasuo here, flashes forward for the last proc of Broken Wings to knock him up, misses the stun, but it doesn't matter. Riven has slain Yasuo as Pearcake now in trouble. The exhaust does go out into Invisible Killer. Pearcake might be able to escape here. Cola Freak stunning up Invisible Killer. Well done by him. And I think that's only one kill across the board, despite all of that action. And it goes over to Purple Team there. Up on the top lane, the Riven soloing that one out against the Yasuo, who went a little bit too aggressive underneath the tower. Now, Purple Team going to be pushing up the middle lane, looking to get a turret onto the board for themselves. Blue Team does have a turret in the top lane, and Invisible Killer does not care about towers. He's going on to Cola Freak. He drops the Ignite, and his passive is taking as well. He's going to go down. It doesn't matter that he's heading on back to base. This Fizz is unstoppable. He's 5-0-0. He's got a 30 CS lead. He's doing a lot of work. And he's low on health, low on mana, and high on gold. That is the best time to head on back to base. He's gonna go ahead and, well, head on back to base. Taking a look at some of the builds now, what's interesting, this Yasuo seems to be building like 3 different items all at once. He has the Crit Cloak, looking to turn that into probably a Infinity Edge, I'd guess. That's what most Yasuo's turned their Cloak of Agility into. He's got a Tiamat, which obviously is going to a Ravenous Hydra, unless he wants to just keep it as a Tiamat, which will be a little bit interesting. And the Vampiric Scepter probably going to Ravenous Hydra as well, so really only 2 different items, but he's splitting his gold a bit, and I don't know if I even really like the Ravenous Hydra pick in general. It's not too effective of a Yasuo item. Ooh, stun lands onto Spiteful over the wall. There's some good burst going down, but Cola Freak is in trouble. Chum the Waters lands onto Varus as the Xerath goes down to the damage from Mumu. Pearcake now in trouble. Invisible Killer is dominating. Corki Valkyries forward to go after the Yasuo here as Invisible Killer flanks around to the side, completely dodging out the Tendrils of Corruption. Very well done. Riven finishes off Kazakhs as Fizz gets the job done on Varus. Yasuo, the only one to escape with his life from Blue Team. Suddenly, it's 2-10 in favor of Purple Team. They're pushing up the middle lane. They're going after the secondary turret here. They've got a gold lead. They want to turn that into a turret lead if they possibly can, though. Even if they get this, they'd just be evening up the turret score, since Blue Team was just they got engaged on off the back of a push where they took the middle lane turret, so I apologize. My cold once again. Messing with my voice there. Zephyr going in onto this Yasuo in the top lane. Sweeping blade, dashing through the Riven. He has the knock-up. He doesn't see her, though. He drops a ward into the bush. He can see her now, but not now. She went to the other bush. There's more than one bush. Yasuo throws out the knock-up the last second and doesn't quite connect. He dashes forward, but gets stunned as soon as he does so. Turns around. Nice crit. Does some good damage. Another one. But here's Invisible Killer roamed up through the river. The knock-up completely dodged out. He goes in. He's doing some great damage. And that is going to be Xerath throwing out his ulti right of the arcane at the very edge. Manages to pick up the kill onto Riven, turning it into a 1-for-1. Which I suppose is better than a 0-for-1, but still not quite what Yasuo probably wanted out of that situation. Well done by the Xerath. Well shot. He hasn't been providing the best performance this game so far. His mid lane kind of snowballed out of control against him, but he did pull out a good shot there. So, despite the previous performance of someone, you should never assume that they're a bad player. You should always just assume that they're having an off game, or that they got behind and just didn't quite play it correctly, something like that. Never assume that someone's just inherently bad, but down in bottom lane we have Corki getting ambushed here. He does Valkyrie away, but, flashes as well, but gets hit by the Tendril of Corruption in the very edge of its range, and there are too many slows for him to escape now. And Highfish, in the best battle we didn't see this game, brings down Fizz up in the top lane. I think he had, what, 20 hit points left at the end of that? That is a close call. Varus turning this kill down in the bottom lane into a push. Might be able to bring down the turret, but Nami and Amumu are roaming down. And they're going to stop this one. Oop, knock-up does not land onto Riven. She goes back in and they just dash around each other in the top lane. Ooh, goes back in with her own knock-up, dealing some good damage onto the Yasuo here, looking to go for a 1v1. Yasuo dashes away through the minion wave. He has another knock-up available with Steel Tempest. Throws it up, but doesn't quite land, and there's Riven with her ulti running. I don't even know what happened anymore there. But Riven got the kill back despite missing her ultimate active. Wind Slash. That's the word I was looking for. Wind Slash. Whew, sorry, I'm a little bit out of it because of the cold and all of that, but I will try my best to focus on this game and focus on shoutcasting for you all, and hopefully you can forgive me for being a little bit out of sorts. Up in the top lane we have Highfish and Zephyr going at it. Zephyr down to a quarter health, but has so much damage, and CC, but burns to the ground from the Elder Lizard. Ooh. 1-for-1 trade, starting the fight at a quarter health, though. That's perfectly legit. I would be fine with that. If I were playing that Riven, if I were Zephyr in that situation, I would be perfectly fine with a 1-for-1 trade. Also getting the turret as well, which gives the turret lead finally over to Purple Team. They've had the gold lead for a little while, but they have yet to have the turret lead up until this point in the game. Big one, not quite landing onto anybody there from Corki. Corki's rockets are always so finicky. It seems like the ones that I shoot that don't look like they're gonna hit always hit. The ones that I shoot that are like point blank, guaranteed, easy as pie range just go wide somehow. I don't really play Corki too much. That's probably the reason. Land of War and Nami going after the dragon there. That does go down in the end. Purple Team garnering for themselves even more of a gold lead. They're about 4,000 up on the board now, maybe a little bit less than that. Fizz now out in the enemy jungle looking to find somebody. Baiting time. There goes the Chum the Waters onto Cola Freak. Playful Trickster brings him down in the end, and now he's going for the 1v1 with Highfish. He's not done fighting here. Urchin Strike right through him. He goes down fairly low. Playful Trickster though, and who will win? It will be Kha'Zix. Fizz probably shouldn't have stayed and fought. Probably, I mean, he could have easily gotten away with Playful Trickster over the wall into the Wraith camp there, or just walking the other direction, perhaps, when Kha'Zix went into his ulti and ran back a little bit. But he wanted the fight. He got a little bit too over-aggressive, a little bit too confident. But to be fair, he's still 10-2. He's still got a death cap. So that's what that needlessly large rod was turning into. Up in top lane, though, we have Zephyr and Yasuo going at it. Yasuo does manage to flash away, but it's not going to be quite enough. Riven brings that kill down as now Amumu is invading, turning the tables here onto the... Well, there's the Curse of the Sad Mummy. I'm not entirely sure if that was really necessary, but turning the tables onto the Kha'Zix, bringing him down in his jungle. Cola Freak now getting engaged upon by Landemore. Came over to check the wolf camp and found a nasty present for him waiting there. And we're going to have Riven pushing up the top lane, looking to get even more on the board for purple team, because once you have advantages, take more advantages. That is the age-old adage of League of Legends, and by age-old, I mean 4 years old, because that's how many seasons we've had. Bubble not quite landing onto the Varus there. Goes a little bit wide. And we have a bit of a moment here to look at some of the builds, which is certainly something that we should do. Riven has gone with the Ravenous Hydra, Brutalizer, and Ionian Boots. That is a lot of cooldown reduction built into her build fairly early on. Though Rivens do enjoy cooldown reductions since they are only limited by their cooldowns. There's no other limiting factor for a Riven in her abilities. Are we going to see the bubble? Nope, Nami not quite wanting to go fully aggressive with that one, despite the fact that Fizz was waiting off in the wings. Kha'Zix, though, finds Fizz in the brush, and Fizz does not want to keep chasing into that one. Varus and Sona are a little bit too close for comfort. He's going to wander back into the jungle. And look, maybe to set up another ambush, maybe find Kha'Zix out all by his lonesome. That's a bit of a problem for blue team here. They don't have anybody who's like a proper full tank, somebody who can just tank up Fizz's damage. Nobody really can do that on blue team. Whoever he targets is going to be going down. He's a lot of damage at this point, especially having just finished off that Rabadon's and having an enormously large on top of it. Invisible Killer going in onto Pear Cake. He wants some of that delicious cake. However, the stun goes back. The Tendril of Corruption goes back. Invisible Killer's going down and he misses the chum. The water's off to the side. And Xerath finishes off Nami right thereafter. And this is the fight that blue team needed. They get a 2-for-0 trade. Can they make it more? Kha'Zix leaping forward. He lands the slow into Llanowar, but he's kind of a little bit alone here. Oh, Rite of the Arcane does come out. Provides some good damage. There's the flash away from the Amumu. Oh, but Highfish pops Ghost. He pops his ulti. He really wants this. He's continuing the chase, and he gets the kill in the end. Well done. 3-for-0 trade overall, though the last one was a little bit belated. Oh, but here's Riven Roam from the top lane. Does she want this? Yunu's Ghost Blade. She's going in for it. She pops ult, flashes in. She's doing some really impressive damage here. That is a 3v1 triple kill. Well played by Zephyr. Really well done. Can she make it a 4v1? Here's Yasuo. She turns back around. She still has her ulti running with the extra damage boost. She's doing quite a bit of damage. She brings down the Yasuo. 4v1! Really, 5v1, because Sarah showed at the end, and she gets 4 kills out of it, and Cola Freak's going to go down to the Corgi. That was impressive. That was wonderfully impressive Riven play right there. I am very, very happy with that. This is a joy to watch. Now, purple team going to take the advantage on the board to push up middle lane. Llanowar goes to clear out his blue buff, though. He wants to take that for himself. Fizz doesn't really need it at this point. Fizz has the flask if he needs to regenerate some mana, and he doesn't use too much mana overall. He uses a bunch when he goes in, but that's about it. Highfish now leaping forward, trying to make something happen onto this Corki here. Fizz, though, behind enemy lines. Pear Cake is going down. He dodges out the Tendrils of Corruption entirely, and Chum the Water's going to finish off the kill onto the Sona. Now Highfish a little bit caught out of position here, caught between a Fizz and his teammates, but he's just going to leap away. Well, Fizz doesn't really want to keep fighting there. Maybe he learned his lesson from last time he tried to fight the Kha'Zix after bringing somebody else down, so he takes the easy kill and backs off. And Blue Trinket spots him out in the jungle, though. They know that he's still around. They might have guessed that he's sitting in the bush there. The stun does land. There's so much damage going on to the Fizz. He manages to playful Trickster away, but Highfish going to keep chasing after him. He brings down the kill. Bubble goes back onto him, though, and that is a 1-for-1 trade. Llanowar now going to push down in the bottom lane. Smites away the cannon just to make it a little bit faster. They want to take as many turrets as they possibly can, because that's always what you want to do. I see no reason not to. Lengthening their gold lead by a little bit more. They're a bit more than 5,000 gold ahead at this point, and Riven has joined the team as well. They're going to keep pushing, keep going onto the turrets down here in the bottom lane. Secondary turret now going to be under fire. Yasuo is split pushing up in the top lane, however, though, so that is something we'll have to keep an eye on. Yasuo can bring down waves pretty quick with that Ravenous Hydra, and turrets pretty fast as well with all of the AD and attack speed that he has. Ooh, a little bit caught out. Curse of the Sad Money catches onto only Pear Cake Sona as the bubble lands onto Varus, but nobody's around to follow that one up. Some good damage, some good poke going on to the enemy team here from Purple, but they don't have enough follow-up really to go under the tower there. They do have some good damage onto this tower, though. They've taken away half of its hit points, and they sent Fizz back to deal with the Yasuo. He got a turret up in top lane. He got the outer turret, but Fizz is going to keep him from getting the inhibitor. But still, that's a 1-for-0 turret trade for blue team, and that's what they need to get back into this game. They're a bit behind here, and their team comp doesn't really work too well against the enemy team comp when they're behind. Because Fizz can just instantly delete Xerath or Varus or Sona. Basically, he has a buffet worth of picks of people to jump onto here. But, thankfully, Fizz is forced to the top lane to deal with the Yasuo split push, and I think that is the way back into the game here for blue team. Fizz now going to look for the 1v1 here, goes in with his Q. Flash from the Yasuo completely dodges out Fizz only, but Fizz dodges out Yasuo's Steel Tempest, and he burns down from Fizz's passive. Well done by both players there, but Fizz just has a bit more damage at this point. Yasuo was 1-5, and Fizz was 11-4, so... Down in the bottom lane, though, Lanamore looking to get an engage here. And the big one coming across the wall. That does a lot more damage than I expected it to, though, I suppose. Gorky does have his Sorcerer Shoes... Yes, he does have his Sorcerer Shoes finished out at this point. I was looking at the wrong spot on the scoreboard. I'm not entirely sure why. I thought he was on the other two. I don't know. High Fish caught out in the jungle. He has the red buff, and he doesn't want to give it up, but he might be forced to here. The bandage toss lands onto him. He leaps away, though, and they don't have any follow-up CC to catch him and pin him down. He's a very hard bug to catch. He manages to escape, and might I just say, I absolutely love that Kazakh skin. The way they made the wings move, it just looks so cool. The way they flutter a little bit like an I suppose like an insect, which is what Kazakh kind of is. Stun lands on the Lanamore across the wall, but Cola Freak is kind of out of mana here and kind of out of position as well. But Riven doesn't want to commit to it. Cola Freak gonna head on back to base. Regenerate that mana, regenerate the little bit of health he was missing, and High Fish catches that Lanamore in the jungle. He goes down fairly quick, but not all the way. Curse the Sad Mummy locks them up long enough for Riven to show up. Ooh! The Wind Slash, not quite enough damage to bring down the Varus, and he manages to walk away. However, Sona does fall in the end. Fizz is here to clean up. The Kazakhs forced across the wall there. Invisible Killer's still chasing after him, though. He really wants this kill. The ward is in the bush, so Kazakhs' plan to turn around and ambush is entirely foiled. He goes down to the Fizz, as now Xerath is a little bit caught out of position, and by a little bit, I mean very, very much so. He's going to die. There's not very many other ways to say it. Well, I'm sure I could think of many other ways to say it. The virtual thesaurus of ways of saying that people die, since that happens quite a bit. But, yes, he did indeed fall in the end there, and that is going to be the dragon going over to purple team here. Zephyr tanking that one up. And actually, something interesting here. Zephyr seems to be going for a Bloodthirster, which is a fairly common Riven item, but I don't know, I usually don't see it until later on. Did pick that up, so indeed is going for that. And another interesting thing, the Amumu's build. So Leandri's Torment Rush, he still hasn't even finished his Quillcoat into a jungle item yet. He hasn't turned that into the Spirit of the Ancient Golem, so he's really looking to pack on those other items before finishing off his jungle item, which means he hasn't had any conservation stacks. At any point in this game, he has not had conservation stacks yet. And the Varus Piercing Arrow does land onto Fizz there. A little bit dangerous of a situation for him to be in, though. If Riven had the will to, she could perhaps have flashed forward and used her combo onto him, but she didn't want to quite risk it, and she does indeed right now. She has her ulti running, she flashes forward. Cola Freak caught way out of position. Fizz flash forward as well for this, and he has nowhere to go. Invisible Killer is on a rampage, and that is the downside of playing in a mobile, squishy champion like a Xerath and being against a Fizz and a Riven. They have flash up and all of their other cooldowns. There's basically no way he escapes. So now High Fish is way out of position here. Lanamore going to bandage toss onto him, but they don't have anything else to follow up on. This seems to be the continual story between Amumu and Kazakhs. He catches them out, he lands the bandage toss, he does a little bit of damage, and Kazakhs just can walk away because the rest of his team isn't there. But it's alright, the rest of his team is at mid lane, and they're pushing that up. We're going to go for the first inhibitor tower of this game. About 30 minutes in, and honestly, I expected this game to be a little bit shorter. What with the lead that the Fizz got early on, and that wonderful play by the Riven giving her a quadra kill, unofficial quadra kill, I believe, in the middle lane. I expected them to be able to close out the game a little bit quicker, but blue team does have some very good wave clear. At least Xerath and Varus do have that going for them. Piercing Arrow and Xerath's Q can both charge up and fire across the minion wave and do quite a bit of damage to them. Damage to all of them. AoE damage is very good clearing out minions. For those of you who did not know that, I think there's probably maybe one person in the audience who didn't know that. Lanamore turning around onto Varus here. Chum the Waters goes a little bit wide, but Varus, why were you even out in the jungle there? Fizz gets a double kill. He's going after High Fish now, and he pops his Zanya. I'm going to assume he did that by mistake. It's not really much of a threat worth Zanyazing away from. Zanyazing is now a verb. Bubble doesn't quite land onto the Sona. Rockets are coming across to harass them down a little bit, and Zephyr's looking to try and make something happen. The Tidal Wave comes across, and a very nice crescendo lands into all three members of the enemy team, but Exhaust is dropped onto Zephyr as he comes in with Yumu's Ghost Blade running. It's not going to be quite enough, though. Parakeet now the focus of this ravenous Riven with a ravenous Hydra. Turns and brings down that kill. And then lifesteals basically all of the damage right back up again with that Bloodthirster and Ravenous Hydra combo while her ulti is running. Bringing down the first inhibitor turret of the game. Highfish now trying to get something back for it, but Nami's bubble actually going to finish off that kill, but she gets taken down by the snipes from Xerath. He's at least good at landing those right of the arcane shots. As now Lanamore has found Yasuo out in his jungle. Yasuo has been split looking this whole time. Last breath used onto Lanamore. Trying to bring him down. The Ignite is dropped as well, but here's Corki to save the day. Fizz as well, and Corki gets the kill. Rampage for him. Well done by the Corki. Some of the things that we should look at in terms of builds. Fizz still hasn't finished his Lichbane, which I'm very surprised by. He went with the early Sheen and then never turned it into the Lichbane. He still hasn't done that, so a little bit surprised by that. Lichbane's a very powerful Fizz item, even if it was nerfed. I want to say recently, but not that recently, honestly. It's been a while. I feel like an old man. It's not been too long of a while, though. I think it was this season that Lichbane was nerfed. Sona now, clearing out some minions in the mid lane. It's always a little bit annoying when, as the support, you're left to clear out the minions. Varus does show up in the end to take them down, but the support just can't do that. Oh, Riven and Fizz in the jungle. That Varus has nowhere to go. There's not even much I can talk about there. Fizz ult landing onto a Varus point blank with a Riven next to him. That's a dead Varus. He's just dead. There's no arguing. Cola Freak now very dead as well. Zephyr is on a rampage, and Pear Cake is caught a little bit out of position in the jungle, but thankfully only Nami is nearby. The bubble does land, and Kha'Zix is over the wall. He's going to be leaping over to jump on to Spiteful, but here's Invisible Killer turning it around. Exhaust is dropped, but Exhaust was not dropped onto Sona, so the Crescendo does full damage and brings down the Nami, and there's a flash forward from the Corki after Valkyrieing in. He is unstoppable. This inhibitor gonna be taking some fire. And he still doesn't have a Lichbane, so he's not doing quite that much damage, but thankfully there is an AD carry around to help him out in the form of that Corki, as we see that Yasuo and Riven are going at it once again. These two love to 1v1, this time down in the bottom lane. Zephyr pops his ult, he has that running. Oh, the knockup does land. He goes into the last breath. He's doing some good damage, but there's the turnaround from the Riven. Guardian Angel popped. Ooh, Wind Slash a little bit early. A little bit eager on that. Ooh, but the knockup does land from Zephyr, and he is unstoppable. Despite the fact that he missed Last Whisper. I mean, not Last Whisper, Last Breath. It seems like... No, that Last Breath is Yasuo's ulti. Wind Slash is Riven's. I don't know why I get them messed up. Wind Slash was entirely missed out, whiffed it on a not nearly revived yet Guardian Angel form of Yasuo rather than a living form of Yasuo which can take damage, which is preferably where you want to put your ultimate. But despite that fact, she still got the kill there, as now we see Fizz a little bit cut out in the jungle. He goes down to half health. He is very squishy, but he does a lot of damage, landing off of his staff and smushing the bug, and now he goes into zonies, then flashes over the wall immediately. Curse of the Sad Mummy, and Amumu is doing a ton of damage by himself right here. Zephyr has come around from the side. The exhaust is dropped, but it's not going to be enough. He is dominating. Gets stunned up by the Crescendo, but turns around as soon as it ends to bring down the Sona, and he's going under the tower to finish off the Xerath, and he gets the triple kill. Oh, baby, a triple. Well done by Riven. Looping around and coming in at just the right time, and that is nearly a 30-kill lead for Purple Team. 6-3, they've doubled the amount of turrets, they have nearly 30 more kills. Last Breath used by Yasuo going in onto that one, but he's splitting his focus a little bit, going after the Nami immediately after bringing the Riven down fairly low. Oop, manages to dodge out the Wind Slash. Riven just cannot land those onto this Yasuo, it seems like, but she gets the kill anyways. And that is GG. Well played, everybody. Thank you for watching. I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching. If you'd like your replay to be featured in the series, just check the description. You can figure out how to do that down there. Many thanks to Spiteful for the use of their replay. And, hey, if you liked it, then go ahead and leave a like, or maybe a subscribe, a comment, something. Up to you. I'll see you all tomorrow.